Hi, my name's Tracey and you actually probably have a few questions that you want to know before you actually come and engage our services. So what I've done is we're going to actually list out the top 10 questions that people in your situation will be asking before you actually want to engage a lawyer. So the first question is, how much will it cost? And this is a really difficult question to answer because every matter can actually range and can be very different. So what we do in that regard is we actually give you some fixed fee estimates, and we'll actually outline exactly how much it will cost per stage for you so that you're not taken by surprise when you are going in your matter. If you're going to give you an idea, if you're going through a family court matter and you're going through, let's say, a consent order, which means you're keeping it out of court and you have an agreement in place, then you can be looking at anywhere between about $5,000 up to about $15,000, depending upon complexity and the amount of negotiations that actually are involved. If you're going through, for instance, an employment matter, we actually do a lot of fixed fee components for that. So you could actually get an employment contract for as low as about $2,500. It can range up if you want it far more complex, and then we actually charge you on an hourly basis, but we do give you an estimate before we're going to undertake that work so that you're not taken by surprise. In wills and estates, we have fixed fees for going into probate so that you know exactly what you're getting, and that sits at about $3,500. But administering estate, because we can't actually outline how long that process will take, that will actually take longer. So that gives you an idea about costs. Obviously, if you really want to know, before we start work on any of your matters, we'll provide you with what's called a client agreement, and that actually outlines all of our costs and how we're going to be charging in relation to it, so that you know exactly what your money is doing and how you're investing your money and your funds. So I hope that is clarity for that. So that's number one. So the second question then that comes straight off the back of that is, how do I keep costs down? And I actually do this for clients a lot, is we want to keep your costs down to be as minimal as possible, because I understand that the one thing you don't want to be doing is investing money in legal fees if you don't have to. I'd rather you be putting that money towards a new car or your family or children's education. So with that in mind, what we do is there is a couple of things we do. We call an unbundling exercise. So there are some things that you might be able to actually draft yourself, certain documents, and you can have a lawyer look over. Or what we can do is actually not appear on the record, so we're not engaging in negotiation and correspondence backwards and forwards, because that's where costs will rack up really quickly, depending upon the other party or whether the other law firm is quite litigious in nature, of which we have no control. So the other thing that we do is, what I say to people is, we actually issue bills on a weekly basis. The reason we do that is so as you actually know every week exactly what has happened on your matter. So if you want to keep your costs down, we always suggest you use that because it's itemised every time. We're very honest and transparent about what we've done on your matter, and you look at it and you can actually have a read of it and understand exactly, with a brief overview, as to where your matter's at. So you can do that and it costs you nothing, and then if you need any further clarity, you can actually call a lawyer, but you'll know you'll be getting charged at that time. One of the other things I always say to people is this: if you're not being charged on a fixed fee component, you're being charged on an hourly basis. And what happens here in this law firm is we charge on a 6-minute increment. So even if it only took 1 minute of our time, you will get charged 6 minutes. And so what you want to do is you want to use that 6 minutes as much as you possibly can. So what I suggest to people is this, is you write and you send an email. If you've got all of these questions, send an email with everything you've got to say and ask in that email, and then ask for the lawyer to call you back, because it will take a lawyer a lot quicker to speak to you on the phone and relaying the information than it would for them to type an email and send it back in response. So it's really important that you be really quite effective about that use of money. Don't use your lawyers like your best friend. We will talk to you if you need to. Absolutely, we're there for you. But lawyers are the most expensive friends that you can get. And while we'll be here to talk to you if you actually need that, and that is perfectly fine, understand that we're charging you for each of those minutes that we're talking to you. So instead, before you speak to a lawyer, maybe talk to your friends and actually see if you can get some clarity from them about emotional things or how you're feeling going through the process. Otherwise, be very short and succinct and be very clear before you speak to a lawyer about exactly what it is you're wanting to know and what information you're wanting to progress. That's the key, okay? So the next question I usually get is, but Tracey, I have no money, how do I pay? And yet that is a bit of an issue. There are law firms out there who do legal aid. We don't do it anymore. We used to do it a long time ago, and we found that we couldn't represent people as thoroughly as we needed whilst doing legal aid funding, so we've stopped. But what we have instigated is certain payment plans for clients. So you can actually enter into a payment plan. So it's a payment plan in advance of your matter, but that will depend upon the significance of what work has to be done, and it will depend upon basic things like credit ratings and stuff like that. In addition to that, we actually have something called, for family law property matters, we have something called deferred payment, and also for wills and estates. And what that is if we look at your matter and we assess that there will actually be assets at the end of it, or you will have money at the end of it, then we actually don't take payment from you until your matter is actually completed or you've received a lump sum amount of payment. So that's actually an option that a lot of people find very helpful for them. And so that's good. The other one we have is we've actually engaged with Hum, and they actually have a payment plan where you can buy or get loans of money off Hum, and then Hum actually pay us and you pay them back under a payment plan as well. There are many different options that are available. If you're not sure, then by all means just ask and we can actually talk to you about different options that are available. So that's number 3. So number 4 is the question I've gotten a long time and I used to think was used to make me chuckle a little bit. And that is, are you good? And my answer to that is, I'm better than some, not as great as others. Because if I was to say to you, yeah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, I'd be a little curious or cautious about that type of attitude because it's hubris, basically, which means it's recklessly arrogant. And I will say yes, but all lawyers who are practicing in the area should be good. And quite clearly, some are better than others, and you get what you pay for in a lot of instances. But yes, I pride myself on having been a lawyer for over 20 years, and I have my specialties, and it's really important to make sure that whatever lawyer you're engaging actually specialises in an area or has focused solely in one, maybe 2 areas. What we try not to do here is have lawyers who are generalists. So that is someone who dabbles in a lot of different areas. But we do have lawyers who have an understanding across a lot of areas, but they specialise in 1 or 2. So am I good at what I do? Yeah, after 20 years, I hope so. I really hope so. Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't have a business as well as what it is now. And I've had a lot of successes, and I've also had losses. But I work really hard and really diligently, and I work with you, and I'm very conscious about what it is that you need, which is above and beyond the legal outcome. It's more for me about emotionally what it is that you need to get yourself through this matter and out the other end. So asking the question of somebody, are you good? I don't know how anyone can actually answer that in an appropriate way. So, but what you next would ask me then is, well, how are you different? How is Forge different to anyone else, any other law firm? And in some ways, we're not different to any other law firm. We are a law firm. We're not a community legal centre. And whilst we do pro bono work, so we work for some people for free, and we have a lot of initiatives involved, like the domestic violence joint venture, where we actually do represent people for free in those things. We can't, unfortunately, represent everyone for free, but We are different because we actually have a focus on you, and we have a very holistic approach to legal representation, which basically means this. We look after your legal rights and your obligations. That's fine, that stands to reason, any law firm does that. But the first thing I ever ask any client is, what are the top 3 things you want to get from this process emotionally? So normally the outcome is, I want to feel heard, I want to feel safe, I want peace, or something like this. Everyone is different. And so whenever you enter into an agreement or something, I always look at those top 3 and run by you, are you feeling heard? If you sign this agreement, do you feel like you're going to have felt heard? Do you feel like you're going to feel safe? And sometimes an agreement in writing might think or look like everything's been resolved, but it may not have actually hit at some of those core points for you. So if it doesn't, then it's not going to resolve the matter for you, and you're going to walk away and feel cheated and hurt. And so that's what my process is about. And to add with that is, we also know that the legal process is very different for every person, and it can be really emotional. I'm under no illusions, and I've been through the legal process before, and I know how hard it can be. Personally, I think I could be probably one of the worst clients in the world for being needy, because I wanted to get it resolved. So I get how stressful it can be. So with that in mind, we actually have a wellness centre here where we have life coaches that we refer you to. And it doesn't cost you anything, but you can actually go to them and get pointers and tips on how you can actually work through this process and actually move on with your life. So that's really important for us as well. But we're also mindful is when people are going through and receiving large inheritances or getting money in a property settlement, that you may not know how to actually deal with that money that comes into your care. So you actually will need the advice from financial experts who can actually work with you on how to best invest that money or utilise it so that you don't go and blow it all at once and put it in the wrong places. So that's what we talk about with our wellness centre as well. So that's how we're different, at least to start with. We have many other differences, but at the end of the day, the only way I can say to you is to come and have a chat with us and actually see, hands down, exactly how different we are. So the next one is, what types of areas of law do we do? So we do multiple different areas of law. So family law, we do wills and estates, we do employment law, we do business law, we do property law, conveyancing. There are a few others in there as well, a little bit of insolvency and things like that. It chops and changes as we morph and we grow. I'm very much about having as wide a scope in terms of a law firm as we can, because you can get experts which will deal with your matter as different topics arise. So you'll be able to tap into a commercial expert in a family law matter if, for instance, you've got a business issue that arises as well. So, and I found that being really helpful instead of specialising just in one area as a law firm. And if you're not sure, just ring and ask, and we'll let you know whether we actually do deal with that area of law. So the other question we do get a lot is, can you represent somebody else who's interstate or overseas? And the answer is yep. Well, obviously it depends on what type of area of law you're talking about. We may need a specialist in that state, but we just engage agents to help with that. But for majority of matters, the answer is yes, we do. And if it's in relation to family law, it's a Commonwealth law anyway, so we can actually tap into any of those areas pretty easily without any problems to you. As I say to people, the most unusual matter I've ever done is representing somebody who lived in Mongolia, and they don't actually have street addresses in Mongolia. So serving somebody over there is very interesting, but we got it done. So we can represent you, it's not a problem. And we do that by actually implementing Zoom or having Teams meetings or having telephone calls. Especially in this day and age with COVID, there is no barriers anymore. It's really quite easy, and people don't have to come in and see us, not face to face. And it's quite common that I have clients that I don't see face to face until court days and things like that. So it's anything goes these days. So number 8 is, do I need a lawyer? Well, I would say the fact that you're calling us suggests that, you know what, maybe you do need a lawyer because you're not sure. But I will say, if you don't need a lawyer for your specific matter, I'll tell you, because I don't want to be representing you if you don't need my services. That's not what I'm about. I know people think that lawyers are gold diggers and all that, but that is bad business. Let's be frank, it absolutely is bad business for me to be taking all your money if you don't need a lawyer. I will not have you throwing good money after bad. That is not what I'm about. So for some things, you don't need a lawyer. If you're doing a divorce and it's very straightforward, you may not need a lawyer at all. If it's more complicated, then yes, you probably will, at least to get an idea of what your rights and obligations are. For a really good rule of thumb is have an appointment with a lawyer first, just for 1 hour. Get an idea of your rights about what you can do yourself and what you do need advice or representation on. And then you can make a decision from there whether you need a lawyer or not. So it's just a good tip. Number 9 is, can the other party and I be represented by you or come in and see you together? And the answer is no. No. We cannot. And the reason we cannot is because under the law, we have a conflict of interest between the parties. So if you're on opposite sides of a matter, then you might have on one side, we might be able to see issues that are arisen for that person, but which might be completely different to the other parties. So as a rule of thumb, under the Law Society, we're not allowed to represent both parties. We can represent one of you and you're welcome to take that information back to the other party. That's fine. But we cannot represent both of you because we are in a conflict of interest position. Okay? So when we say no, it's not that we're trying to be difficult. It is that we're actually trying to protect your interests. And finally, the question that we always get asked is, what do I bring to an appointment with a lawyer? So if you're having your very first appointment with a lawyer, the answer is, if it's in relation to family law, you want to have a list of all of your assets and all of your debts and know as much as you possibly can about your matter. The more you know and the more detailed your information is that you can provide, the better and more defined that advice will be. If it's in relation to estates, you want to see the will and you want to know about the probate and where all the assets are. If it's about business, we want to know, for instance, things like what is your ABN, what is your business structure, how's it set up, all of those things. So the more detail you can actually provide, the better. But please don't bring along an inch thick of documents and think that we're going to be able to read through them in an hour. We're probably not going to be able to do that for you. So refined notes, very specific detail, and know exactly what the top 3 issues are that are happening for you right now and what is it that you want to get out of this process. So that's the best advice I can give. So that's a lot of information there. I hope that has helped answer a few of your questions, but there is information on our website all over the place there that will help give you more clarity if you're just not sure. But otherwise, I look forward to talking to you in the future, and if it's not meant to be, then I really hope that you get from this what you need to go on and get the best representation for yourself. See you later.